Welcome to Collector's Corner, the premier NFT art podcast.
We help collectors gain and maintain their edge, all while appreciating amazing art.
We're excited to help you in your collecting journey. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cornering the Market. I am P. I go by Aston Cloud online. I'm joined with my co-host, Jared, who you may know as Jared_Pause online or J_Pause online. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's been a ball buster of a week, but finally coming up for air and excited for the weekend.
Me too. Me too. It has been a crazy week over here as well. We've been doing a lot at Collector's Corner. Jared is working hard on the 8NAP fund, his digital asset fund. And we are, it feels like the gen art world is not slowing down despite the bear market and everything else going on. So for anybody who's new, these Cornering the Market episodes, we do a weekly episode where we recap the gen art world and help you try to find good opportunities to collect out there and keep up with what's going on and what's new. Today is Friday, October 7th. This will be coming out tomorrow, and we'll just look back on this week. These episodes are audio only. We will have it up on YouTube, but there won't be any video there. Please like, subscribe, follow, comment. It really helps us. We really appreciate it. And let us know what you think. We're tweaking the format of this quite frequently to try to get you the most relevant content. So it's really helpful to know what you like and what you don't like. So with all that aside, let's go ahead and hop in. And in terms of tweaking the content, something that I wanted to do is really take you all through our process as we assess the market. And what do we do every week to keep up with it? And the idea is to share that with you. And in that vein, I would say the most important thing almost every week is to take a look at the macroeconomic picture. A lot of people have been asking me, are you buying art right now? And my answer is typically no. And it's not because there's not great art, but because the macro looks ugly. And I think in US dollar terms, I know a lot of people don't, but for those who do, you may realize that things could be getting cheaper in US dollar terms coming up. So two big things that I think people should keep an eye out for. One, next week on October 13th, which is a Thursday, we will get the next inflation read for the US. If that inflation is high, there is a chance that the market drops violently. So keep a lookout for that. I think it's even, $1,000 Ethereum is on the table. Unlikely, but it's possible. And crypto price actions are still weak. You can see, yes, Ethereum's at like 1,300 or so. Bitcoin is a little bit around 20,000, but it's just not able to stay up. There are not a lot of positive catalysts coming in the future. And just today in the US, the jobs report came out. And what that showed was that the economy actually looks pretty good, which you would think is a good thing, but it's not, because that means the Federal Reserve has more room to increase rates, which is really what has been causing the drop in any risk assets. If a lot of that was gibberish to you, I'm sorry, but the takeaway here is really that there is not a lot of upside in the global macro economy right now, and that is likely to keep crypto and NFT prices low. So keep that in mind as you consider your strategy for investing in things where you do have to consider how much they cost. Anything you want to add to that, Jared? I know this is something that you follow as well, and probably even from a work standpoint, this impacts what you do in your day to day.
Nothing to add. I would supplement it by saying I think we're aligned in that sense. I'm patiently awaiting the next 2 to 3 months to see where things go. I have a grim belief of the energy situation in the EU, and I think it will have a ripple effect. So not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but just anxiously awaiting to see what the future holds. So I'm being a little bit more cautious myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just something that everyone should take into context when they consider any investment, really anything, be buying real estate. And that certainly applies to NFTs. And I'm going to hop over to the crypto market cap. We haven't traditionally talked about this, but really quickly, Bitcoin is at 19,480. It's about flat over the last 7 days. Ethereum is at 1328, about flat over the last 7 days. So not a lot of change there. Working on getting you a full market cap for generative art. But for now, we have been looking at different collections. We're starting with sort of the blue chip collections in Ethereum, and we try to see what has been moving. And then I'll throw it over to Jared to interpret some of the Tezos, the FX hash volume. But on Ethereum, Chromie squiggles continue to move. Floor price is about flat. It's at 11, but 26 sales in the last 7 days. Meridian have started moving, 10 sales. Price floor is still, actually, it's up. It's at 8 Ether. It's up 4%. Then after that, we have 9 sales of Memories of Qilin. Price is up quite a bit there. 6 Ether floor, up over 50% from last week. And then Edifice, there's some movement in Edifice. That's 9 of those sold, 8 gazers sold, 7 pigments of art. Pigments, and 4 anticyclones. So we're seeing some good movement here in the blue chips on Ethereum.
Yeah, I think the two things that stood out to me is one, we pointed out the thin floor on memories last week. So kudos to us, something we've been tracking. And number two, of those squiggle sales, one of them was a notable OTC sale by Curated, picked up a very rare ribbed
A harmonic, right?
a harmonic. So it was, it's good to see that not only floor pieces but non-floor pieces are moving. I also think there are some recently two pipes sold. So and bolds recently. So there's definitely a lot of movement. It's not just floor pieces. I study squiggles ridiculously closely. A lot of resistance around that 12 ETH space. There's a pretty thin floor up until then, but 12 is going to hold pretty strong. And overall, like just seeing the price action, it's been, for it being a quote unquote bear, it feels more intentional, and people are deploying dollars currently.
And there have been a few releases that seem to have gotten good volume. Uh, you know, QQL continues to have pretty decent volume. I don't have the actual numbers in front of me there, but I know that those are moving, floor prices are holding. So the interest in high end gen art, if you will, is still quite strong from my read. Let's take a look at FX hash, where we still have high end art as well, but have more of a breadth. You want to talk us through what we're seeing here in the last 7 days of FX hash?
Yeah, absolutely. Hot off the press, literally within the last couple hours, Zancan's Garden Monoliths just had 4 huge sales for 25,000 Tez each, so a total of 100,000 Tez. I think it's an unfortunate situation for the previous owner having to liquidate, but you can look that up on Twitter. I don't necessarily want to advocate for negativity, but I had nothing but the best of wishes that go out to him. Number 2 for the week is a project called September by Teaboswell, TEA
Wow, this
Boswell.
did more volume than I thought. I mean, this just came out.
Yeah, just came out. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. It's really cool to see. I'll call it a relatively new artist to the space get such a wide recognition and embrace. Super, super beautiful outputs. Number 3 for the week with 13.3 thousand Tez is a generative piece by Maxwell Inked. He's an artist in a collaboration with Twisty, but an artist that I had followed and bought up some of his pieces previously. So it was really interesting to see him dabble into output. I'll speed up a little bit, but number 4 is somebody that I'm absolutely enamored with. Yazid had a Herbert Franke tribute release today, and that was the irrational / rational beauty. Beautiful outputs, in my opinion. I minted 1 and picked up a couple on the secondary. Then I'll just motor through it. 5 is Dragons by William Mapon. Cool to see that one still coming up. 6 is Bugged Forest by Zancan. And then Uninhabitable is one that I hadn't seen before.
We can point folks towards this too. We'll torture you through all 15 of the top ones. Strikes me looking at this though, there's still a good mix of the well-regarded projects on FX Hash and newer ones that are popping up.
Not only that, but RGB came in with 7.7, so that's about 3 sales for that. So it's cool to your point. It's new projects, old projects, new artists, established artists. It's really a cool mix.
Yeah, getting a great variety. So, folks, FX Hash, you can just go to their marketplace tab, see what's been going on here. When I take a look at the last 30 days volume, you're seeing a couple of the newer ones pop into the top 15 of the last 30 days. So that's also nice to see. Really notably, this September by T. Boswell. I mean, I saw this and I liked it. Well, maybe we'll highlight that as we transition over into interesting new art that is really still quite affordable. Going back to the global macro situation early on, we want to try to highlight stuff that is not going to break your bank, and perhaps you can still enjoy this wonderful art. So September by T. Boswell. It When did this launch? October 2nd. I did hear about it. I looked at it. I thought it looked nice. I thought I'd wait and see how the floors went. Floors at 140 Tez. That's actually pretty solid for 5 days later. And I actually don't. Do you know how to tell what it minted out at?
I do not. Oh, there you go, right there, 25 Tez.
So that means it got down to 25 Tez. Wow. Oh, and I'm sorry, I misspoke. The auction started on October 4th, so it was just a couple days ago. So, wow, that's actually a really solid floor given what it came out at. So, perhaps this is one to pick up and watch, see if you find some outputs that you like near the floor and grab some. Did you get any of these, Jared?
I didn't. I actually was I think I had 4 Tez in my wallet when it was going out, and I figured I'll just pick them up later and didn't realize I thought it was beautiful art. Didn't realize it would run so much. But
Yeah.
yeah, I unfortunately slept on it, and the market is poking me in the eye for it.
Well, we can't be on it 24/7, unfortunately, but we'll catch them a little bit later. You had a few you wanted to highlight as well. You want to go ahead and point out some cool art that you've been seeing out there that is quite affordable?
Yeah, well, first off, the irrational rational beauty by Yazid is one that I absolutely would point out. I mean, literally just released today about 3 or 4 hours ago. So I think there's an interesting opportunity. The floor is around 100 Tez, to get a Yazid piece that is, only one of 261 for 100 Tez. I think there's an interesting opportunity there. His pieces have proven to be pretty good long-term holds for something that's aesthetically pleasing. And the other one that of note to me was Ip Sketch released Sketch F, and that was something that I thought it's really intriguing because excuse me, you could only mint if you were a holder of his previous works, Sketch A through E. I think we both had a few of them, 600 piece project, but again, that's a pretty low barrier to entry. And, for Ipsketch, who's, art block stuff sells for significantly more. Obviously, some people are taking profits in the short term with the free mint, just dropping everything to the bottom line. But, I think that there's some beautiful work in there and a really, really attractive point of entry.
I agree. So even if you don't have the eligibility to get it for free, my guess is there'll be quite a few of those that drop for a lower price. I mean, actually, right now the floor is 12, and there's 66 listed for sale. And some that look quite nice. So check that out. And if you are eligible for mint, take a look. You might have something waiting for you. There's also Continuum. You want to mention this one? Minting
Yeah,
currently.
Continuum is an open edition for the time being. You got about one more day left by Nick Sassoon. It's beautiful the way the animation. I mean, generally his pieces and the animation is amazing, but he's now experimenting with movement and trying to figure out how that patterning. It's a beautiful piece at 0.05 ETH. To me, this is a no brainer. It's I think a first in his exploration for a new style. and a very, very attractive entry point. So hopefully anybody who hears this can get it at 0.05, and if not, I'm sure the secondary will, for the time being, remain pretty close.
I think so too. We'll put this in the show notes. Hopefully, we'll get this out in time, but I'm sure the secondary will be robust as it always is quickly after releases occur. All right. A couple others that I wanted to highlight. This actually was on my list of good recent releases, and it was also on FX Hash. We'll keep going there. It's called ELO by I don't know, GPITOMBO. GPI Tombo, I guess, is perhaps the way you pronounce it. It's really interesting art. 184 of these. It was released on, it was recently October 5th, so 2 days ago, Dutch auction. Unclear how low it got. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I just really like the outputs. Floor is currently 54 Tez. It kind of has a very abstract, interesting sketch-like look to me. Had you seen these, Jared?
I hadn't seen them, but very, very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, they're really cool. They're really cool. And I want to check out this artist a little bit more. A lot of interesting new artists I'm able to discover here through FX Hash. And then I also wanted to note Entangled by Tezumi, which was launched on 256 Art, which is a launch platform there. And I really like these Entangled. They give me Zancan vibes, almost those kind of plotter vibes. As you can, if you check it out, again, it'll be in the show notes. You'll see what I mean. I picked up one of these. They were, let's see what they're at right now. They're trading around like 0.05 Ether floor. So not very expensive, relatively speaking. Um, let me find this. But yes, Entangled by Tezumi, 0.05 Ether floor at the moment.
And one of the ones
And
that I'm looking in the it mints in 2.5 days on FX Hash is one called The Fire Within by Yin Wen Lin. He has a couple other previous artworks, but this particular output actually just has there's only one, so to speak, but it's a Dutch auction that starts at 48 Tez and rests at 12. I could see myself picking up a few. Again,
sorry,
the
how did you
fire.
find that, Jared?
If you just go to the
Oh, you're
the
just looking at
explore,
upcoming stuff that you
yeah,
like.
incoming. Yeah, there's a one called The Fire Within. I've seen a couple of people talking about it just because the art is really, really, it's honestly got some Mapan vibes to me. I hate to throw that out there, but it looks really complex, and it's just beautiful the way the colors come into play.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let me just highlight like a couple more that I found that are I think cheap and good. There is an edition by Zancan called Cradle, which I thought you would enjoy. Currently they're at 490 Tez, so they're not cheap anymore, but it's an edition of only 80. And for a Zancan edition, that seems like a reasonable price. You actually probably know more about this than I do. Is this reasonable for an edition of 80 for Zancan?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for a long time. The Versum pieces of Zancan to me feel extremely underpriced. I mean, stuff that like the problem here is you can't buy them on object. So you actually have to go to Versum, and it's the only marketplace where they're available. So I think people who are accustomed to going to object, myself included, had to like you have to retrain yourself to hop over to it. But I own the entire set. There's 7 of them. I think that they are an incredible play. I mean, they range anywhere from 80 all the way to a max of 250 editions. But a low the 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 500 edition called Still Life with Meaning is at 95 Tez right now. I mean, there's a tremendous opportunity to get a lower supply Zancan at a really reasonable price. I mean, that's less than $150, and then you can get prints and everything through his website. But I think that the Versum pieces are ridiculously underrated. I think that there's a couple in there that are just um, by and large, I feel all of them are very attractive and aesthetically appealing.
They are. I love the skyscraper one. It's like amazing. I'm a big fan of trees. All right, so let's move on to upcoming stuff. You mentioned the Fire Within. Are there any others that you have your eye on for the coming week or further out?
Not on FX hash, and then obviously I'm kind of in a waiting pattern for art blocks right now. So nothing. I'm hoping to get caught up and potentially start plotting some stuff out, but um, nothing else.
Yeah, well, there's a couple coming up in art blocks that I think look pretty cool. We'll see how it goes. The Departed by Alexis Andre. That's coming out October 12th. And then Sandalia by Melissa W. October 17th. So I think both of those could be interesting. But other than that, I don't have too much. I do think it would be, let's just talk about a few stories, things going on in the generative art world. I want to talk a little bit about Fontana, which was the latest Art Blocks curated release. It launched on the 5th of October, and it has done quite well. 500 pieces. It's by Harvey Rayner. The floor price is excuse me, losing my voice, 1.7. Minted out at about 0.46, I want to say. I can quickly double check that. But in that range, really, it's interesting to me for a couple of reasons. One, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jared, but I believe this is the last Art Blocks curated as we know it in this series format. So Art Blocks is shifting from having series one, series two to more of a continuous release. So you'll still have curated projects in the sense that they go through their curation board, but it's just a little bit of a different format. And it sort of, I think for some people, signals the shift in art blocks, like the end of an era, and now we're moving on to the next one, and confers some level of collectability due to that. But in addition to that, I've heard that this is so. I don't know if you knew this, Jared, but they've done a really interesting thing where the palettes within the collection are the colors within the palette is generative. So in a lot of generative art, you may get one of 15, 20, 30, whatever palettes. But in this case, the actual color, the hues within the palette itself are also generated. So there's some randomness within, you could have the same palette, but they won't look the same color wise because of that generative nature of it. And actually, our friend Tin Bain was telling me about this today, which I hadn't realized. And as you know, we spoke with Thomas Peterson a couple of days ago, and he also highlighted that he'd been waiting for this project for a long time. As an artist, he knows the artist. He's probably seen some of the outputs, seen some of the code, perhaps, and he was really excited for this one. So perhaps there's something special here beyond that. I think right now it's being dominated a little bit by flippers, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
I think it's absolutely beautiful in a very classic and simple way. I think I remember reading something about the artist having more of like an engineering background and this being reminiscent of an integration of like shapes and colors and dimensionality. So I think it's beautiful. I unfortunately slept on this mint. Also, it's been an absolutely crazy week. I would have loved to have picked one or two up, but I'm not mad about it. But even when we talked to Thomas Lynn Peterson, his admiration for it really sparked in a renewed interest. Not that my desire is dependent on other people's, but it's just it was something that sounded like he had been able to see a couple previews in advance and was enthralled with it. So I'm anxious in a good way to dig into the project more. But when we looked at it last night, I think it was like 2.3, 2.4 ETH. So like as you said, the flippers are starting to take profit. I'm waiting to see where it levels out at, and then I'd love to support it and pick up a piece or two. I do think it is very beautiful art.
Absolutely. And I wonder if it'll hold provenance as being the last in the curated series, which is a good question to you. Do you think that all of the curateds that have been out there will continue to do well? The reason I think about this is, I was privileged enough to speak with Leo Villarreal and talk about generative art earlier today. He has a new collection called Cosmic Bloom, which is a follow up in some ways to Cosmic Reef, which was his art blocks curated. And so I took a look at it. I hadn't looked at it in a while, and the floor price is 3, and I was kind of surprised, not because it's not deserving, but because people don't talk about it that much. But it is an art blocks curated. Do you think that any curated could hold a lot of weight in the future just by virtue of being early and it being art blocks?
I think that there's going to be an interesting collectibility. So to be clear, our blocks curated will continue on. They're just ceasing the series designation. So right now there's series 1 through 8. It will just be more of a continuous process. Um, so I think that there will be some level of collectability. I think the intriguing part, because it's from series 1, it's like deconstructed elevation. There's only 200 of them. So best case scenario, there's only 200 full curated sets that would ever be able to be put together. Um, I don't think there are going to be that many individuals who attempt to do that. Obviously, with like Fidenzas and ringers being ridiculously expensive to the average individual, it will be hard. So to answer your question, I feel there will be series 1 collectors just because of the provenance that it's the first series of the first generative art platform. But I do not see a huge premium in the long term for people. Maybe a museum does something so they can display it, but I think it will be a smaller subset of people who do it. I see more of like a series 1 day 0 type collections rather than an entire series, because that's just got to be an astronomical amount of money.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, here's what I would have to believe for any art blocks curated to accrue a lot of value in the future. I think art blocks brand needs to continue to grow or retain the amount of prominence it has in the space while the space grows. And I think that curated tag would have to continue to have a really high quality of outputs going forward. And I think if enough people, like, let me put it this way: if art blocks is still the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and we have 100 times as many people interested in generative art, I could see a world where any of the curated series 1 through 8 is just considered super valuable. Um, I don't know what kind of floor price that translates into, et cetera, but it does strike me that there seems to be a pretty high floor price here in a bear market for a lot of these curated series, more than I would have thought. Not because they're not deserving, but I didn't think, I guess there was still that much money in the
Click
space.
into the activity. I'd be curious to see the frequency of sales, right? And I think that that's something that maybe
There's
this
a
is a
lot of
bad
recent
example.
stuff. But like anything else, it seems like they go in runs, right? Like we mentioned Bent, we talked about Dip Sketch before. If we take a look at Bent, oh no, sorry, it's Edifice we were talking about that recently had a bunch of sales and is now at a 2 ether floor. So Edifice, another art blocks curated, this one by Ben Kovac. And in the last day we have 5 sales, and then before that it was a week ago that we had 5 sales, and pretty, not that many sales in the last month in general. So it feels to me that I don't know. I'm not making any predictions here, but I didn't even really think of it as a possibility that perhaps all of these early art blocks could end up retaining value and being worth more in the long run. And now I'm entertaining that possibility. I have no idea if it happens though.
Yeah, I think I'm eager to see how it plays out, honestly. I do think that there's some provenance there. I'm just curious to see what the premium is that it holds. I think that the idea of collecting an entire set is a very, very big task financially for most people.
Sorry, Jared. I'm not talking about like an individual collecting a whole set. It might just be somebody who barely scrapes enough to get one edifice, and that's all they have. But I wonder if, as a whole, these art blocks curated in these series end up having more value because they're historic. They're a part of the art box series. And now art box doesn't do that anymore. I agree. One single person buying every single one of them is going to be a lot, but it doesn't take that for the whole thing for any individual collection to be worth a lot.
I agree, and I think that there's obviously provenance associated with art blocks and curated. You see that just with anything that's released on FX hash versus art blocks. And then your further question is like, what would a series 1 through 8 have further enhancement? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I just get a sense that a little bit of that is happening now, and I don't have any evidence for that. But yeah, so any interesting news, Gen Art news you want to talk about?
The garden monolith cells, I think, is something that was like peak interest for me. The fact that Zancan is still commanding such a high premium relative to everything else on FX hash. I mean, he is above and beyond, blowing everybody out of the water for total accumulated volume. I think if you looked at all of his stuff, I'm guessing it's, his 4 projects: Garden Monoliths, Bug Forest, Garden Monuments, 3, sorry. Cumulative would be basically the rest of FX hash. So, or any other artist for sure. So I think, that's top of mind for me when you start to see garden monoliths moving. You start to see that the floor is pretty thin. Obviously, it's still a big amount of money, but 5 available from that 26,000 to 29,000 Tez. So and then it gets like really erratic from there. There's just not much there in a 255 piece series. Arguably, some of them more attractive than others. I think that this is going to prove out to be a good purchase for anybody who can afford to hold on to such a prevalent piece. The other thing that's top of mind is, maybe I'm just fanboying it here, but I mean, Yazid just keeps producing great work, man. I'm going back and trying to bid up a bunch of his FX hash work. I think it's the release today. It was indicative of not only his passion for the space, obviously being a tribute to Herbert Frank, but I think that he's dynamic in a very simplistic way, and it's you see it in autumn. I mean, I saw this, so this is top of mind, and why I'm so bullish on Yazid right now is you saw it happen with Mapan, where uh, anticyclones ran, and then it would pull up almost stubbornly the floor of dragons, even though arguably it's just as beautiful work. I'm seeing automatism get a lot of attention, and you're starting to see the prices creep up on that. And my operating ethos would then be that there will be some spill out into the FX hash works. So just a little bit of like a random rant, so to speak, for this wonderful Friday, but it's, I think it's I'm seeing Yazid's name pop up, and just my intuition tells me that there's opportunity there. I don't know the exact play, but I'm a big fan of hashed cities, hashed arcs. Please don't go outbid me. And I just think that there's some beautiful work by Yazid that are.
Yeah, I absolutely. He's great. You folks should go and check out Yazid. I'm actually not even sure exactly how you pronounce his name, but he has really, really great stuff on there, and not too much either, which is good. And so check him out, and take a look at automatism as well. Seeing that moving. Yeah, I don't really have too much in terms of news. Probably have more for everybody next week. So I think we could go ahead and wrap that, Jared. Where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Jared_pause POZ. I'm in Discord at J_pause. And a shameless plug, the official launch date of the fund is November 1st, 8NAP digital asset fund. So if you are interested in investing, DMs are open. I have quarterly gated entrance. So please contact me if you're interested.
Excellent. I am at AskThemCloud online. We are at collectors_XYZ on Twitter, www.collectorscorner.xyz. Please follow us, reach out to us, let us know what you want to hear, let us know what you're interested in. Thank you, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for tuning into Collector's Corner. We hope you enjoyed this episode and you found it useful in your collecting journey. Please check out our website, www.collectorscorner.xyz, for show notes and digital art galleries related to this episode. You can also follow us on Twitter, @collectors_XYZ. If you'd like to help us out, please leave us a 5-star review on our website or your favorite podcasting platform, or leave some feedback on how we can do better. The Collectors Corner team and guests are not registered investment advisors. All views expressed on this podcast are personal opinions and are not specific inducements to make particular investments or investment strategies, and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. This show is solely for informational and entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, please consult a professional.